Hi everyone, welcome to Mindfulness for Uncertain Times Week 1. This is part of a course that I have created just to help us through these uncertain times. My name's Gemma, so originally I created this course, had the idea of this course to help out my friends and family. I know everybody is struggling at the moment with the current global crisis. People are feeling anxious, uncertain, and frightened. And people are grieving for their ordinary day-to-day lives, as well as some people for loved ones that might have been lost. Worrying about what's going to happen, uncertainty for the future. We're all also going through huge transitions, changes in jobs or perhaps loss of jobs. For those who are still working, a lot of us it's now working from home, which is really different, and that can have a huge impact as well on our emotional health. So it felt really authentic for me to offer my skills in mindfulness to just maybe ease that somewhat for people who are struggling, and in order that they might be able to find some sense of calm amidst all the chaos. So initially I did film this in my garden, which was the original idea. That's also where the idea came from. But I have had to refilm it today just because it was so windy and you couldn't hear what I was saying on the video. So today we're inside. Maybe on a nicer day it will be outside in my garden. So a lot of the inspiration for this course came from my garden, because I was noticing that whilst I've been working at home, so I work as a counsellor, so I usually see people one-to-one and face-to-face. Although I've also facilitated mindfulness groups and written and mindfulness courses in the past. Primarily my work is one-to-one, face-to-face as a counsellor. But because of the coronavirus, we're no longer able to see people face to face. So I'm working from home of the telephone, which is a very different way of working. And I've noticed that I've been spending a lot of time in my garden. It's a really mindful place to be. It's full of colour, sights, sounds, smells, and it's just a really mindful place to be. And I've been noticing that actually I've been feeling really calm, and I've noticed, especially on social media, that many people around me were not feeling so calm. People were feeling quite anxious. I was noticing people being reactive, acting on impulse, or really being caught up in emotional ways of being, and it just sounded really unbalanced, and it just felt really authentic for me to share a bit about what I was experiencing. So I was noticing that I was just naturally being mindful because I was spending a lot of time in the garden, and it's just a natural place to do that, because I do mindfulness and yoga anyway, so that it just that just seemed to be quite natural. But I was noticing that what I was doing was I was practicing mindfulness, and I wanted to share that with other people. So I have written and facilitated mindfulness courses in the past for various different organisations. This one is going to be a really casual kind of course, so I'm going to teach you some different mindfulness skills, tell you a little bit about mindfulness, why you're practicing it, and take you through some guided meditations. So the meditations that I am going to teach you will be skill-based. So the purpose of them is to become aware of thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, or any other experiences. Being able to sit with that, and to be present in the moment. So we'll have different meditations throughout the different weeks, and I want you to practice mindfulness in between. It could be the guided meditation perhaps we've done the week before, or maybe just one of the others that we practice, and also some mindfulness inquiry and one thing in the moment. So you might want to have a notebook and a pen, in case you want to take any notes. Obviously I don't have any handouts for you because this is via video. If any of my friends do want a copy of the handout that I do show you, I can send you it by email if you do want that. You might want to take notes, but you also might want to notice what you notice. So you might want to take a note of what you notice. Mindfulness is very much about being curious, being open to experience, and being aware. So mindfulness is a skill. It's a particular way of paying attention on purpose to the present moment. It is not a distraction or an avoidance. When we're mindful, we're very aware of our difficulties. We're aware of feelings or thoughts that we might be having, and we're choosing to focus on the present moment and not getting caught up in those distractions or thoughts or feelings. And choosing to pay attention to whatever it is we're focusing on as our mindful practice in the present moment. So whatever we are focused on, we'll think of it as our anchor. So as humans, we get distracted, we have thoughts, we have feelings, we have urges to say, do things. It's all part of our experience. Mindfulness helps us to become aware of those experiences and observe them. So we can choose to respond rather than react, and we can choose where to focus our attention rather than getting caught up in that. And that's, I think, going to be really helpful right now when things are very much out of our control. So mindfulness is not going to change circumstances. It's not going to get rid of the problems that we have. But what it can do is it can help us to be more calm and respond more calmly in the present moment, and find a sense of peace. Okay. Pardon me. So I'm going to ask you to taking a sip of water. There we go. We're going to do a couple of practices. We're going to do some inquiry and using some discrete skills, and we're going to do a meditation as well. So if you want to take part in this first inquiry, you will need either a cup of tea, and it could be a herbal tea or just ordinary tea, or perhaps if you didn't, it could be equally a cup of coffee, or perhaps if you don't want to have a cup of tea, you might pick a piece of fruit, or even a piece of chocolate. That's okay. If you want to pause it and go and get something, then go and do that. And you can pause the video and start it again when you've found what you're going to get. So for this exercise, we're going to use our 5 senses. So when we're practicing mindfulness, we use our 5 senses to become aware of the present moment, and also helps us to ground us in that moment. So we're using hearing, taste, touch, smell, vision, or whatever else is appropriate for focusing on the particular exercise that we're doing. So we're purposely noticing what we observe through our senses. So the skills that I'm going to teach you are observe, describe, and participate. And that might sound really simple and straightforward. I also think it's really important that we understand kind of what the discrete skills are, so we know what it is we're actually doing. I know that I found it helpful to know what the skills are, so I knew what I was actually doing in that moment, and how I was going to focus my attention. And then we can also, when we know what those skills are, we can practice them for ourselves. And so this exercise, again, it's not going to change the world around us, not going to solve our problems, but what it is a practice of using those skills. And it's also something that you can do anytime throughout the day, just to bring a little bit of mindfulness into your day, just to be in that present moment, a little break between activities, just to make sure to bring yourself back present and back aware, and just have that moment of calm. And it's really important to kind of build those moments into our day, especially as at the moment we're all in completely different and new circumstances. We might have a lot going on, but having even a couple of minutes just where you're present with yourself, using your senses, kind of really bring you back into the present moment. We can also do this by making sure that we're doing one thing in the moment. So another way of thinking of that is one mindful. So rather than doing 60 different tasks at once, just attending to one. Just being there with that task, noticing it, and perhaps notice any thoughts or feelings you have about it. And purposely participating in doing that task in the here and now. We often feel like as if we do 50 things at once, as if we're being more productive. But actually, in reality, if we just do one thing in the moment, we're more efficient. We're less likely to procrastinate. We're less likely to make mistakes. And I actually find, and I know a lot of people find this, that when you do one thing in the moment, and when you also make time in your day to purposely practice mindfulness, although it might seem as if that's got another time you've got to find in your day, then I actually find that I'm having more space in the day. I've got some free time. And that's because I've been able to concentrate better on the things that I've been doing. So they've taken me less time, and also I've only been doing one thing at once. So one thing in the moment is also important. Again, if you want to make any notes, then please pause the video. We're going to start our mindful inquiry. So what I have here is I have a cup of tea, and actually what I was doing earlier is I've started to do this when I'm working at home, and it just helps me to have that little moment of still, mindful moment. And I've tried to also create a mindful space on my desk where sort of in between calls I can just have that moment of still. So I've got things on my desk like incense, because then I can be mindful of the smell, using my senses. I've got a crystal, it's an obsidian. If you're interested in crystals, it's supposed to be grounding, and but you know, it's just something that I like, and it's there on my desk, and it's something that I can hold as well, can be mindful of, I can pick it up. It's solid, just notice how it feels in my hand. And I have a teapot and a cup of tea and saucer, and that's something that I've just recently started to do. So I fill my teapot in the morning, I brew it, and I use herbal tea because the aroma is beautiful, and the flavours are brilliant, and it's just a really wonderful way of being mindful and having that moment in your day. Equally, you know, it doesn't matter, you can do this with just an ordinary cup of tea, or with that piece of fruit or that piece of chocolate. That's okay. We're just going to be using our senses just to notice and explore texture, taste, colour, perhaps heaviness. It's light, heavy, any urges or thoughts that arise, using your vision, describe in words in your mind. So observe, we're using our senses, our 5 senses to observe. Describe, we're describing in words what we observe through our senses. And that's just in our mind's eye that we describe that. But that can also really help to bring us back into the moment. It can be really containing, and if using that to describe feelings as well, it can be really containing to kind of just put a name on it, or to name your thoughts, or just name whatever it is that you're focusing on, and help you to stay grounded. And participate is fully participating in the moment. So a lot of the times our thoughts and feelings can get in the way of us participating in the moment, and especially judgments. We might have judgments such as I don't like it, or I'd rather be somewhere else, or how is this supposed to help me, or you know, there's all sorts of things that, or the judgments that we might have, which can get in the way of us participating, and actually can lead to distress. So if we practice mindfulness, we can become more aware when we're being judgmental of ourselves, other people, the world around us, the things we're doing, the present moment, and then we can let go of that and bring ourselves into being more present. You might even find that you feel more connected to yourself and to other people. So I think I have my cup of tea, my teapot. It's actually a gift. I think this was a gift from my auntie. I think it used to be hers, but it's not. It's a different colour scheme which I usually go to. I've become quite fond of it because it's got Kirkstall Abbey on it, which I think is quite appropriate for me. So I'm just going to notice. What's that like? Just being aware, noticing how that feels, perhaps noticing the texture of it, the weight in my hand, my teacup in the other hand, perhaps just noticing the weight of that. And I think when you're doing, you can do the mindful tea ceremony actually, when there's something really ritualistic about pouring tea from a teapot. So I can notice the golden colour as it pours out the sound. Just noticing the aroma. Just being with that. Describing to myself in detail. Perhaps noticing the heat rising from the cup. Perhaps noticing in my stomach any urges or even maybe sensation as my stomach starts to rumble. Maybe it's appetizing. Maybe I'm having thoughts. You might be having thoughts, judgments, or thinking about other things, or maybe even a memory or an association. If any of that happens, it's perfectly okay and perfectly usual. Just notice that. Try not to judge that that's happened. Just let go of it and bring yourself back onto your anchor, which in this moment is your cup of tea or your piece of fruit or your piece of chocolate or whatever else you have around the house. And just take a few moments to mindfully explore that, mindfully inquire, just being curious about what you notice using those senses. So you might want to, if you have a cup of tea, perhaps take it to your face, just allow that aroma into your nostrils, maybe take a small sip and just notice those flavours in your mouth, and notice the sound as you place it back on your cup and saucer, back on your saucer. If you have a piece of fruit, maybe just take a moment to explore the heaviness, the texture, the colours, describe to yourself in your mind's eye. Perhaps you might want to just score it gently with a nail and now take another smell. Just noticing anything that happens and emerges within you. Notice any resistance that you're having to doing this exercise. Be curious about that. That's part of your experience as well, and mindfulness is just becoming aware of our experience and choosing where to focus our attention. If that happens, try not to judge yourself for resisting and just gently bring yourself back into inquiring, using your senses, observing, describing, participating. You've got a piece of chocolate, the same thing. Take a few moments to observe, describe, using your senses. Perhaps you might even notice that you start to feel saliva on your tongue, or that you have the urge to throw it in there. I know when I've done this before with people and I've used chocolate, sometimes people have eaten it without thinking, just straight away. And a lot of the time we're doing things just so mindlessly without really being aware of what it is we're doing. We're acting on those urges to say things, to do things. Now, one thing I tend to do is nibble things out of the cupboard. I'm doing it mindlessly. I wouldn't do that if I was aware of what we're doing. And that's when we're kind of acting on that, in that emotion mind. When we're acting on our emotions, we're not fully present. We do have this a lot, so it's just so busy, caught up in busy lives. I wonder how many of you actually sit down and notice what your tea tastes like, what your dinner tastes like. Actually notice the texture and flavours and just be there with that in the moment. Or are you doing 50 other things? So just be curious, do one thing in the moment. Just observe, describe, participate. You might want to do that a little while longer. want to stop the video, you might want to just make a note of what you noticed, what that was like for you, any thoughts, feelings, sensations that came up, any resistance you were experiencing, or any judgments, and whether you were able to let go of that and bring yourself back onto focusing on the inquiry. Okay, so that was our first practice. So that was a mindful inquiry, and I was helping you to practice those discrete skills of observe, describe, participate. But I was also talking about doing one thing in a moment, and doing one thing in the moment really helps us just to slow down. But it doesn't help. It doesn't mean that we're less efficient. We're actually more efficient. Because we're concentrating, we're present, we're more connected to ourselves, to other people, and we're more joyful in the present moment. So a lot of the time we're so busy thinking about what's next, or where we'd like to be, rather than where we are, how we'd like things to be. What's next on the list? I'm going out tonight. Not at the moment, but I wish I was going out tonight, or I wish I was going on holiday. I'm sure a lot of us are thinking that at the moment, but we're not being present here and now, and we're caught up in distress. And if we can bring ourselves to noticing just moments of here and now, being present, we can find peace and joy in the small moments that we often miss. Okay, so if you want to make some notes, you can stop there, or if you want to note on the bottom of the video, or underneath where I share it on Facebook, how you got on, and you can share with other people as well. So usually when we're doing a group, I'd have people sat in a circle. I would usually take part in the activity too, as long as I'm not reading meditation, and invite people to share what they noticed. It's a really good way of learning from other people too. Obviously we can't do that, but we can share underneath, and you can perhaps learn from each other that way. Okay, so I want to talk to you now about different states of mind, and I want to talk to you about wise mind. So when we're practicing mindfulness, we're trying to find a state of wise mind, and that is valuing the wisdom within. So the idea is that we can all be in different states of mind at different times, and this is for all people. I'm going to show you this Venn diagram, and I hope it shows the right way round when I post this. Okay, so we have reasonable mind, wise mind, and emotion mind. So on one side of the Venn diagram is reasonable mind. So reasonable mind is cool, it's rational, it's task focused. When you're in reasonable mind, you're ruled by facts, reason, logic, and pragmatics. So your values and your feelings become unimportant. It can be helpful, for example, if you want to follow a recipe or refit a tyre, and you need to do something really practical in that moment. But it can become unhelpful if we're in this state of mind a lot of the time, become quite disconnected from our feelings, quite unaware of what it is that we're experiencing emotionally. And we do all have feelings, even if we're not aware of them. It's part of our human experience. So if we become quite detached from them, that can be really unhelpful later down the line. It can also mean it's hard to relate to other people. We might come across as quite cold, and we might, we might find it hard to feel empathy for other people. Our values and our feelings become unimportant when we're in that state of mind. It can also lead to problems down the line. Often what happens is if we're in reasonable mind a lot of the time, then if something perhaps happens or changes, we sometimes slip into the opposite, which is emotion mind. Because we've not been aware of those feelings before, we find ourselves really overwhelmed and struggling to cope. We sort of flip from one side to the other. So emotion mind, and some people might find they're in this state of mind a lot of the time, and I think especially at the moment with the current crisis with the coronavirus, a lot of people are acting on emotion mind. So emotion mind, it's hot, it's mood dependent, it's emotion focused. When you're in your emotion mind, you're ruled by urges, feelings and moods, and urges to say or do things. And your fact, reason and logic are not important, so we might be quite reactive or impulsive and not necessarily make very considered responses to situations, or taking a step back to just stop before we act. So that can be really, really unhelpful. We might not be aware of how we're impacting on other people, and also we might act on those urges. So we might do things that perhaps we later regret, whether it's to say something, or do something, or cope in unhelpful ways, maybe eating that entire chocolate cake, or drinking a bottle of wine, or spending huge amounts of money, or other ways of acting on those urges, as we're not able to sit with and tolerate our feelings because we're really caught up in those that emotion mind. So when we're practicing mindfulness, we're aiming for a state of wise mind. And of course it's not really possible to be in this all the time. We all have situations where we become more vulnerable to perhaps being in emotion mind, or for example if we're unwell, or if we're not beginning to get any exercise or sleep. But if we practice mindfulness, then we're more likely to notice those emotions before it becomes that. So wise mind is the wisdom within each person. It's seeing the value of both reason and emotion. It's bringing left brain and right brain together, and it's the middle path. So when you are in wise mind, you are aware of your feelings, but you're choosing how to respond rather than react. So for example, maybe you feel sad and you feel like staying in bed, and your urge is to stay in bed. If you're in emotional mind, you would just stay in bed because you'd act on that urge. If you're in wise mind, you notice you feel sad and I choose to get up, go to work anyway. Or perhaps I notice in this current situation, maybe if you're in emotional mind, you're feeling anxious and your urge is to go out and buy a load of shopping, which you don't necessarily need, but you're caught up in that emotion. And it feels urgent in that moment, and you don't take a step back to just slow down and notice that emotion, and notice that's what it is. It's an urge, it's a feeling that's driving that behaviour, and to just be with that and turn your mind elsewhere, or make a mindful choice. So if you're in wise mind, you might notice you're feeling anxious, or you don't act on it, or you don't necessarily act on it. So you notice that for what it is. It's an experience, it's a feeling. I'm feeling anxious, and I'm going to choose not to. not to act on that urge. Or I'm going to choose to focus my attention elsewhere. I'm going to choose to practice some mindfulness or to meditate or do some yoga or do some anything. I'm going to choose to be present. So have a play around with that. Maybe notice which states of mind you're in over this week. Maybe you're in one more than another, or maybe you're in a different one with different people or at different times. And just try and become aware of that. If you want to stop here and just take a note, then please do so. I'm just going to take a sip of tea. Okay. So I'm going to take you through a meditation practice. We're going to do different practices throughout the different weeks. And I'd also like you to practice some mindfulness in between. If you don't manage to practice any, then do show up anyway for the next video, for the next part of the course. Maybe just be curious about that, curious about what stopped you, what got in the way. You know, is that a resistance or was it difficult? Was there something behind that? What was that? What was stopping you from making you a priority? Just be curious about that. So we're going to do some mindful breathing. So I just want you to invite you to, first of all, to sit comfortably. And perhaps you're sat on a chair or you're sat on the floor. Either way is fine. Just make sure that you're in a position where you can sit for a period of time. It's going to be comfortable but alert. So perhaps raise your collarbone slightly. So you want to be comfortable but you want to be alert, because mindfulness is very much about being aware and purposely paying attention. Okay, and just take a moment just to become aware of, perhaps if you're sat on a chair, just the back of your legs resting into the chair, your buttocks resting into your chair, your lower back. Perhaps just pressing your feet into the ground, noticing that firmness underneath your feet, and noticing the solidness of the chair holding you up securely. And just allowing yourself to settle into this moment. Just becoming aware of yourself in the chair, or if you're sat on the floor, perhaps you have your legs crossed, or another way that you're sat. Just become aware of the feeling of your buttocks, your legs against the floor. Perhaps noticing the position you hold in the body. You can adjust a little just to make yourself comfortable, alert. If you're sat cross-legged, you might want to just have your palms open and facing upwards, collarbone raised. And just starting to become aware of the natural rhythm of your breath. I'm going to invite you now to close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. throughout this practice, at some points I'll be speaking and guiding you, and at other points I'll be leaving you for a few moments just to explore yourself. So there will be moments of quiet. So the purpose of this practice and the purpose of the practices that we're doing is to help you to become more aware of your thoughts, your feelings and physical sensations, so that you're able to separate those out, to watch them, to become aware that that's an experience that's happening with you. You're not necessarily your thoughts, feelings, or physical sensations, just part of your experience. To notice them without judging, to let them go, which is different to push them away. Just notice and choosing to bring your attention back onto whatever our anchor is in the current moment. Then you'll be able to apply that to other areas of your life, and you become more skilled practicing mindfulness if you practice regularly. So our anchor in the current moment is the breath. So you might want to place one hand on your belly and just noticing your belly inflating with air like a balloon as you inhale. And noticing it fall as you exhale. Noticing your belly expand, inhale. And noticing it contract as you exhale. You might notice the cool air moving in through your nostrils as you breathe in through your nose. And perhaps noticing that warm air on your bottom lip as you breathe out through your mouth. And as you do this exercise, you might find that your thoughts start to drift, or that you have judgments, or any other experiences you might be having, memories, anything else. That's okay, that's perfectly natural. Just notice that. Try not to judge that for happening. It's human. And gently bring yourself back onto the breath. And if you're struggling to be present with that breath, that's okay. Try not to judge that, just notice that, be curious about that. What is that? What's that like? Maybe name it or describe it to yourself. Try not to judge it. And just gently bring yourself back onto the breath, noticing those physical sensations of the breath as you inhale. And exhale, perhaps just noticing where the breath is strongest in your body. Maybe it's the opening of your nostrils where you can feel that cool air moving in. Maybe it's your throat. It's your chest, rising and falling with each breath. Maybe it's your belly. And perhaps those sensations are only subtle at first, or perhaps you don't notice any, and that's okay. Be curious about that. What's that like? We're really just trying to be curious about everything and bringing our attention back onto the anchor, which is our breath. Perhaps you notice your shoulders rising and falling with each breath. Or if you sat on a chair, perhaps you notice your lower back pressing into your chair as you inhale. And just carry on to explore, be curious. Maybe you might want to just notice your body as a whole as you inhale. And as you exhale. You might notice that when you do these meditations or when you practice mindfulness, you have quite strong feelings, and that's okay. That's because when we are practicing mindfulness, we're going back to the present moment, so we're more aware of what we're feeling. It doesn't mean that it's making you have those feelings, they're already there. But we're bringing ourselves back into the moment, we're becoming aware of our experience. If that happens, just notice that. Just be curious, you might want to name it, for example. I'm noticing my heart racing. I'm noticing I feel anxious, or I'm noticing tears behind my eyes, or sadness is arising within me. By naming it, by observing and describing it, make it feel more contained. And then just bring yourself gently back onto your breath. We're not following that feeling here and now. We're noticing it, and we're bringing ourselves back into focusing on the breath. We're not avoiding it, we know it's there if that is what you're experiencing. I like to put an "and" in there, so it might be something like I'm feeling sadness and I'm going to focus on my breath. Or perhaps there's a lot of thoughts whirling around in your head at the moment, especially with things going on, and you'll find it really hard to settle and let go of those thoughts. So sometimes it can be helpful to imagine that your thoughts are leaves on a stream, and they're just floating past. So you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, they're just part of your experience. You can just watch those thoughts drift by. It might be one after the other, that's okay. Even if you're having a thought, I'm not having a thought, that's a thought, and let that one go too. Or if you're having judgments, that's also a thought. I don't like this, or I'm confused, or this is nice. They're all thoughts. Just put them on the leaves, going down the stream, just watch them, just them drift by, just let them go. And just bring yourself back to the breath. And maybe you're having so many thoughts you can't even identify your thoughts, it's just a tangled web of thoughts in your mind. And maybe if that happens, it would be helpful to notice, what's that like to have that experience? How does that feel? And then you can put that on the leaves going down the stream. Put that feeling, put that experience of that on the leaves just going down the stream. You noticed it and you're just letting it go. You're bringing yourself back onto the breath. And just notice, be curious, explore your breath a little while longer. And gently, in your own time, you might want to just, when you're ready, place your hands in front of your eyes if you have your eyes closed, and just gently open your fingers with your eyes behind your hands. Gently bring your fingers away from your face and let that first bit of light back into your eyes. Bring yourself back into the room. Just take a moment to just be present, notice where you are, just become aware of your body. Okay. So normally I would ask at this point how you got on, what you noticed, if you were able to let go of those thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, distractions, and bring yourself back onto the breath. If you're able to notice that happening and bring yourself back, or if you are just really in it anyway and just really focus on that breath and able to concentrate, let me know how you got on. You can post a comment below the video when I post it, or on Facebook, and you can always share with each other and learn from each other. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer that. And if you want to jot down in your notebook, then do so. So try and practice mindfulness between now and next week. So we looked at one thing in the moment, we looked at observe, describe and participate. We've looked at different states of mind, especially wise mind, which we're aiming for. And we have done a mindfulness breathing meditation. So try and fit some of that mindful inquiry, one thing in the moment, throughout your day, and try and practice some formal meditation. And if you don't, just show up anyway. Do come back, and we'll be looking at something different next time. Thank you very much for staying with me and watching this video. Take care. Be safe.